Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to another episode of That Inner Voice podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer McKenzie, the conscious living coach, owner of Lunar Spirit Wellbeing. Today, I'm joined by Tracy Richardson, and we're going to have a chat about mental, emotional, physical well-being and well-being in general. So welcome to the podcast, Tracy. How are you doing?
Oh, thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I'm really well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Really good. Been a busy week. So just introduce yourself. Let the listeners and watchers know who you are, and whether you're listening or whether you're watching on YouTube. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. You never know who you'll help by sharing this video. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, Tracy.
Awesome. So, hi, I'm Tracy Richardson. I'm a holistic health practitioner and mindful wellness coach. So basically, I've moved kind of from just being the physical and all about the body, and now it's all about the mind and the soul, because we're the whole package essentially. You know, we're physical light beings, and everything affects everything. So I run a practice called Hybrid Therapy, and I work with bodywork, I work with holistic therapies, I work with something called Amino neurofrequency therapies, which is all the innate body frequencies. I do hands-on, I do virtual consults, I'm a mindfulness and meditation teacher. And I'm just launched my own podcast all about wellness, and I have a book that I've just had back from my editor for the final edits, so that'll be out soon.
Woo! Wow, you did it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. How does that feel? I bet you feel like I've done it.
Honestly, it's an amazing feeling knowing that it's almost there. Because I suppose, like yourself, I know you're writing as well. It's something that you've wanted to do for ages, that you've never got around to doing, that you started, you stopped, and so on. And I think the last 2 years, if it's taught us anything, is just to do stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Just get it done. More doing, less thinking
Oh,
about.
for sure.
So, you're a lady after my own heart, mind, body, spirit, well-being. And I was lucky enough to be a guest on your podcast, and we talked all about energy, didn't we? But
Yeah.
so tell me more, and tell the listeners more about. So you've got like a patch on your side of your head. If you're watching, you can see, but if you're listening, so what are they?
Okay, so basically, Amino neurofrequency therapy. This is a little disc that has frequencies embedded in it. It just looks like a sticker, I know, but it's a patented technology, and it's classed as a medical device. And essentially, your whole body runs on frequencies, which is a little bit out there as a concept. But if you imagine your brain as like a huge supercomputer, and the nervous system all going through the body is like fiber optic broadband, that's how all the messages get through. So what these do is, when we have dis-ease or dysfunction or something going on in the body that we're alerted by because we have symptoms, so pain, inflammation, whatever it is going on, what these do is they tap into the nervous system essentially by giving it a little poke. And because they're a reflective surface, they keep on poking. And nerves are really great, because once they pick up a frequency or a signal or resonance, whatever you want to call it, they poke the one next to it, and it's like the all or nothing principle. So they all follow on from one another. So to bring the body back online, or to get it out of the situation that it's in, we can use these frequencies to poke the system and bring it back into balance, homeostasis, and normalization. So it's something that I came across in 2018. My sister was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I saw how it affected her. And there was lots of physical and mental symptoms that came with that. And I wanted to help her. So to me, as a therapist, it was just time and money. And if it didn't work, it didn't work, but at least I tried. And the influence that it had on her in the space of 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, we put these on. She's in a lot of pain. It makes you very grumpy, really does affect your mental health. And within 5 minutes, me and my mum were just nudging each other like, oh my God, she's like sat up, she's talking, and I'm like, there's something in this, there's got to be something in it. It sounds like it's really out there. I know the way that people look at like things like Reiki and things like that, and but everything is energy. We have our energy fields that surround us. We interact with electromagnetic frequencies every day. Essentially, we're light beings, so light particles which are just spinning really, really quickly and highly attracted to one another. And if we can influence that in some way, then that's what I want to do. And it's just taking things, I think, back to a base level. So the one that I've got on here today is actually called Genius Brain. So it's making me smarter as we sit here.
Yeah, brilliant.
But what
get into these patches.
Oh, honestly, it's been a real game changer for me, for both my physical and my mental well-being. So prior to getting into therapy, I was fully trained in some, but I was actually a lecturer for 10 years, lecturing in sports science, and the education system has changed an awful lot in that time. And I ended up having, I suppose, a little bit of a mental health episode myself, where I went through a period of depression, and I went through a period of not knowing which way was up, not wanting to get out of bed, because everything that I'd worked for 10 years wasn't like the crock of gold at the end of the rainbow that I'd expected. So won't go into the details of everything that happened, but I ended up leaving and not really knowing what to do with myself. So I thought, I've got to use these skills that I've developed. So that's how I got into doing the hands-on therapies, and I've never looked back.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I know that you're spiritual, and do you believe that it was like a spiritual nudge?
Sure.
In the direction,
Absolutely.
you change direction.
Absolutely. I think, I don't know, when we get into like the spiritual stuff and we talk about all the clairvoyance and the senses and things like that, I've had these experiences since I was a teenager. But because I chose to go down a scientific route and got degrees and dissertations and research and things like that, it's not something that's ever crossed into my sphere. So when things were happening to me that modern allopathic medicine couldn't support me with, didn't have the answers for, I had to look elsewhere. And I find that a lot with the people that come across me, or that I come across in life now. We follow different paths or different journeys because the traditional, in inverted commas, routes aren't suited to us, or they're designed in a certain way that isn't conducive to wellness or getting better. Or so yeah, definitely I think it was a spiritual nudge and a kick up the backside, more like.
Yeah, sometimes those signs are subtle, aren't they? And sometimes if we ignore those subtle signs, then the universe is like, hello, here's a huge big nudge, or here's a huge big kick up the button for you to, fulfill your purpose and do what's aligned with you.
I think it would have been nicer to have had a nice little feather float down in front of my face or something.
Yeah, but they're only like the small signs, aren't they, really? And they're lovely. And I love feathers and the signs and numbers and everything that that get, shown to me. And because I'm very spiritual and I really believe in those signs, synchronicities and everything. But I feel like on my own journey of spiritual awakening, and when I was ignoring my soul's calling or ignoring the subtle signs within my body, I was then made to leave places. Something big would happen. I'd be made to leave relationships, be made to leave, or made to change direction in a big way. And as soon as I started listening to those signs within my body, because everything is connected, isn't it? Like your emotions create a reaction in the body. So then if you're ignoring those things, and then you're going to feel it, aren't you?
For sure.
If you don't kind of stop and look after yourself, the universe will give you a reason to
for sure. Absolutely. So like in the body's hierarchy, emotions govern everything. So I look at it like you can sit in your house in a chair, and you can have one thought, and that thought can dictate your day to whether you do something or whether you don't do something, whether you're scared of something, whether you're joyful about something. And it's just a thought. Nothing's actually physically happened, but that has triggered a response in the body through the nervous system, which has triggered perhaps hormone release through the endocrine system, which has triggered an emotion, which is a feeling. And it's that feeling that is so powerful that it can envelop you. And we've all been there. We've all, watched a scary film and jumped at the scary parts, or been in love and, walking around on cloud nine. We've all had those feelings envelop us, but we don't realize that actually every single day we're surrounded by all that stuff. And if we're not mindful of what's going on in the brain, it can kind of take over a little bit. And the stories that you tell yourself essentially then don't become conducive to unicorns and rainbows.
That's it, isn't it? And part of like the work I do is mastering the mind. And I really do believe if you learn to master your mind, then you can really master your life. Because we can't control what's the thoughts that are coming into our brains, but we can control how we respond or react to them. And it's like, well, like you said, like there's all the lies that we tell ourselves in our brain. It's just like memories, isn't it? And like nothing can be changed from the past. But those memories and feelings reside in the not just in the mind, but in the whole being.
Absolutely. So we have like a part of our brain called the limbic system, which governs our fear response. I'm sure you know this. Yeah. And that fear response, it can be triggered by stuff generations ago. It can be triggered by stuff that's in our subconscious. So unless we're aware of stuff, it's very difficult to stop those thoughts. And like you say, past experiences, the minute your body thinks that you're back in that situation, it elicits all those same response or behavioral patterns, and you're going through the same things again. The body's scared. So the way I work is it's all about trying to make the body feel safe, because when the body feels safe, it flows, it works, it's in that balance, that equilibrium state, which is what it really likes. It doesn't like all these highs and lows of the roller coaster of life. It likes balance.
So those of you that are watching and listening, let us know, like in the comments on YouTube, have you ever felt like your emotions in your body? And I'd be interested to know, what was that? Because like you said, love, you can feel that, can't you? And you can feel that warm like feeling. And then so being scared, your body tenses up, your heart rate rises, and your blood pressure. So being stressed, we'll often feel that a lot in our shoulders and in our necks and our jaws, because we're all tensing up all this area. And let us know in the comments what your experience of the mind-body connection is. And I'd be interested to know what your thoughts and feelings are about that. So Tracy, tell us a little bit more then about how you then got into like what you do now.
Okay, so whilst I was a full-time lecturer, I decided it'd be a really good idea to do a master's degree. So alongside my full-time job, I did a master's degree in sports therapy, which was what I thought I wanted to do because I was teaching in sports science at the time. However, along that journey, I realised that, there's no rights and wrongs in life. I think there's only betters. But for me, I realised that the stories that people's bodies were telling me by the time it got down to the bones, muscles, joints, that was like the end point. That was, the culmination of things. There was always a hierarchy. There was always something else that was going on, a cause or something that was triggering stuff. So I had to know more. I'm one of those really annoying people that asks why and how all of the time. So then my sister got ill. So that led me down the path of the kind of the Amino neurofrequency stuff and looking into that. And that just exploded my world, because it's the only training that I've ever done that has so many different professionals doing it. So chiropractors, osteopaths, doctors, nurses from all different walks of life. And from that, you get the richness of their experience as well. So when I've been on training courses out in Spain at the headquarters and over in the US. So by traveling to these places to do the training, you then getting involved in kind of different cultural things as well. And well, we don't do that in the UK, or I've never really seen that before. So it made me invest more time and money into stuff, and then getting into like the meditation side of things. Because in a previous life, I was a Pilates instructor. So we used to talk about like the physical side of things, but never really got into the holistic, the mental, the spiritual stuff. So then it was like, well, actually, this is what people need. Everybody's running around on high alert all the time. They need more calm in their life. So then I looked into that. So then it was like the link between the emotions. And then it was just like, oh my God, this is literally everything is everything, is everything, is everything. So the reason that I've done so much kind of training in different areas is because I want to know everything. I mean, obviously we never know everything, but the more that you know, the more that you can then support someone else going to their journey. And it's at the end of the day, the way I look at things is wellness makes you a well-being, and that's all about your health. And without your health, there's nothing. I think Gary Vee said it: without you, there is no business.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not taking care of yourself, there's no business of, you know, the role that you're in, employment or the job. There's no business of the family. There's nothing is going on. Nothing works.
Yeah.
And to bring this out to people in as many different ways as you can, like meeting them where they're at, is such a challenge, but it's one that I've kind of taken on and want to run with.
I love it. Knowledge is power, isn't it? And the more that we can educate people about their minds and their bodies and give them that empowerment and to help them to self-heal. Because a lot of people I speak to just have real no idea that it's all connected. And the way that the UK is quite far behind in holistic treatment compared to like the USA, we're like years behind them with the way that they work holistically and spiritually with people. But I would like to see more of the medical profession working alongside the holistic and spiritual practitioners rather than them being really separate. Because the way I work is sounds quite similar to you, or combine science and spirituality. So spiritual and Eastern practices combined with like modern science is a really, really powerful combination to help people heal and, you know, to take care of their whole well-being. And I'd love to see that more. It has over the last few years been more prominent within the medical industry, but the doctors that I've seen and experienced with my clients is that they don't empower people. They don't tell people that they can actually help themselves with like things like just right breathing, things like mindfulness, meditation. So a lot of people that are on high alert don't even breathe properly. And then, you know, yourself, like if you're not breathing properly, shallow breathing, just with the top part of your chest, then you're not oxygenating your body properly. And your nervous system is still in high alert. But just by breathing, you can regulate your nervous system and then reoxygenate your body and your organs. And, you know, with 10 minutes a day, totally change your whole health and well-being just by breathing properly.
Oh, absolutely. It's something that I practice daily, as I'm sure you do. But it's something that nobody ever teaches you how to breathe. Nobody ever teaches you how to walk. Nobody ever teaches you how to move around. Or these are all things that they just assumed. Oh, yeah, I'm breathing, you know, I'm still alive. But actually, let's look at how you breathe and what triggers that response. And then we can, you know, peel back the layers essentially. Okay, so this is triggering you to do X, Y, and Z. Let's just try this. And it's something that you can do in your own time. It's free. Something that if you do it consistently, certainly down-regulates your nervous system and puts you in that calm state. And that has a huge effect not only on like your physical side, but your emotions, your well-being, how you interact and communicate with other people in your life. Because we all know what it's like to be stressed, and then it's like the straw that broke the camel's back, or the, you know, getting on your last nerve kind of thing. But you can stop stop that from kind of unfolding. And just wanted to touch on something that you said before as well, about like how the stress response and how you go into different poses, and we all know what it feels like when you look at kind of like the Eastern medicine. So if you're really angry and frustrated, you hold that in your liver. So your liver becomes congested. Now your liver's like got over 500 jobs to do. It's such an important organ. It's a detox organ. So if your liver's not functioning, there's no way you're going to have all that oxygen going through the blood, because it filters the blood. If you're fearful, you know, your kidneys. So there's a lot of people that have lower back pain that can be related to feeling fearful or unsupported straight to the kidneys. And it's just all these interconnected things that actually just makes so much sense. And I think probably you know it, I know it, and you forget that other people don't know it.
Yeah. Because it's like, when I started to do the more in-depth training, so I first started training in holistics about 20 years ago, and then I've did my reflexology training because I love like Chinese medicine and the meridians and like think like the acupressure points and everything like that. It absolutely fascinates me. And then obviously they use the elements as well, don't they? So like the elements, and then relating to the different organs of the body and everything like that. But it was then I met the first Reiki master I had, and I was just like, what's this? So I was like, when I first got introduced to that energy, and I was just like, wow. And then I just like learned more and more and more. And it's like I'm addicted to learning. I'm addicted to like courses. And I just spend a lot of the time listening to like Gabor Mate. I love his work around addiction and trauma. I listen to like audiobooks on like neuroscience, stuff like that. And then another one is Bruce Lipton. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
It's like epigenetics. Yeah, it's just like, what?
He's got such an interesting story as well, because he came from a real science background and then ended up teaching on a desert island somewhere. And like his whole journeys are amazing. There's him and Joe Dispenza as well. You know, getting in your heart space and being in coherence. Yeah, I've learned so much from just listening and being aware. And actually, this is stuff that we should know. And there's something's happened where this is not passed down through generations. It's not put out there through education.
We learn about fractions, which I've never used a fraction since I left school, I'll be honest.
No, I can't say that.
But you know, things like, oh, what's a long multiplication? I know it's handy with calculators these days.
Oh, do you remember the days where, you know, you won't have a calculator with you wherever you go? Well, actually now we do.
Yeah, welcome smartphones. Yeah. But yeah, you know, the education in schools isn't about the mind and the body, isn't about self-awareness, isn't about self-help, self-healing. And they are introducing more about emotions in schools. I have seen that because I've got 4 children. So I have seen that change over the last sort of 15 years when my children have been through the schooling system. But yeah, it's still not talked about enough. And I find here in the UK, we're very unaware of ourselves and unaware of what trauma actually is and how it affects us. I see so many people diagnosed with mental health conditions, diagnosed with autoimmune conditions, but then the link between unresolved trauma and suppressed emotions and these diagnoses, they're actually the same symptoms. But I'm not saying that the diagnoses are all wrong or anything like that. It's just that they're not talked about. The relationship between the two have not been married up with the mainstream medicines.
So I think the thing is, though, when you go down like the allopathic, the mainstream route, is they're specialists in an area.
Yeah.
So, you know, you could be a specialist from here upwards, but actually here upwards affects everything that goes on in the rest of the body and downwards, but you don't know anything past here. And then the left hand doesn't speak to the right hand. there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape, I feel, in that side of things. And I worked very briefly in the NHS in the physio department a long time ago now, but there is an awful lot of bureaucracy and red tape and things that they have set protocols and procedures that they need to adhere to, whereas working holistically, it's not about the protocol, it's not about the procedure, it's about the person that's in front of you, what they're presenting with. And I'm sure you find this as well, sometimes you don't even have to lay your hands on somebody, do anything like that. They can have an emotional release and all of a sudden they feel amazing, and you haven't really done anything, but you've facilitated that release in them. And people just don't get that emotions are so powerful. They're the highest frequencies out there. Like love is just the highest frequency, and that can change so much. And if people could bottle that feeling, and just whenever you felt a little bit down or the clouds were grey outside or whatever, and take a swig of that feeling, then it would just help so much. But we forget.
We do. Yeah, I have to remind myself sometimes. But that's like years of practice, isn't it? Where you kind of feel yourself in those emotions, but we don't want to hide away from those emotions or ignore them, because that's when we get the problems, when they don't have any, they need to go somewhere, they need to be acknowledged and they need to be released. But yeah, when you start to feel those irritable feelings or discomfort feelings, you do have the power to choose again, as Gabrielle Bernstein says. You always have the power to choose again at any point in your day. You can choose and come back into the frequency of love and gratitude and appreciation. So that's kind of what I practice when I'm feeling overwhelmed or whatever. I just stop, pause, breathe, and then switch my energy back into that frequency. And it's simple, but it really does work.
Yeah, for sure. So like the way I look at emotions is they are energy. So if you have something that's trapped inside you, it's like an energetic sky. It's like a swirl of energy. And until you do something to release that. So when you're touching somebody like physically, you probably feel it as like a trigger point or something. So you can push down on that and all of a sudden there's a release. And that's great because it's treating the problem or the symptom. But actually what's caused that? And then when you look a little bit deeper, it could be something, like you were saying, just take that pause. We've all been there, we've got out of bed, stubbed our toe, and that set the tone for the rest of the day. But actually, if we can flip that switch and be like, right, okay, that's not even a minute out of my day. There's 1,440 minutes in every day. So that's all those choices that I can make in that time to have a better day. We'll, in the UK, we have rubbish weather a lot of the time. No other country in the world understands why we talk about the weather so much. 4 seasons in the same day. Like my US friends, they're just like, what do you mean you have 4 seasons in the day? I'm like, let me show you. So I get my phone out and they're like, geez. I'm like, yeah, you just like be out in California. You have sunshine all year round. And it makes you feel good. But actually, we over here, we need to have these little triggers or things that we can do. So taking those pauses or taking those moments to flip that switch and be like, right, okay, it's raining outside. I don't necessarily want to go out and walk the dog, but actually what am I going to gain from that? I'm going to gain being out in nature, having probably less humans around because it's raining, and gaining from that experience. So a lot of people think it's about what they're giving up, but actually if you can change your mindset to what you've got to gain from it instead, then it flips that script again.
Absolutely reframing that mindset is
reframing,
yes, reframing. And I literally do it all day long because life, people say to me, why you're always so chill and happy and everything, and like you're always like doing loads of stuff or energetic. I said, because I work at it, so I choose to be like that. I have plenty of reasons to be a miserable old bitch, trust me. But I've been there, done that, and it doesn't work. It makes me more miserable. So I just choose to let go of like things that I cannot control. And this week I've had to do a lot of that, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Like I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and what did they say to me? It really resonated. It was like, life is not a rush. And I just stopped and I was like, you're so right. And then when you look at like the last 2 years, we had that enforced period like where everybody had to stop. But just a little bit about my personal journey, I suffered a miscarriage and then was really poorly from it. So basically, you don't remember the first half of 2021. It's like it just went by in a blur. But that really affected me. And I could have chosen to go down, you know, and go down the depression route and stuff like that. But actually, it was like you were saying, you got to make that choice. And you make that choice, like, it's not even to get through the next week or month, to get through the next 10 minutes sometimes, or the next minute, without having like one of those thoughts that takes you to that dark place, distracting yourself by doing something, to get through the next 10 minutes, the next week, the next month. And all of a sudden, you know, life is actually a bit better. But it's that practice, like you were saying, you got to work at it. If you want to be good at something, you got to practice it. You can't just expect to be good at it, because otherwise we'd all be millionaires living on a beach.
Yeah. We would be. And just going back to the weather as well, I'm highly sensitive to any sort of energetic change, and especially the weather. And the weather in this country really, really affects me. I'm even considering moving, like in a few
Wow.
years. That's on my 5-year plan, is not to live in the UK in the cold times, because it totally affects my joints, my body, my mood, everything. And then when it was warm and then it went cold really quickly, I was so stiff and in pain so much. And so just the change in the weather and that energy.
So there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know
Well,
that feeling again, if you could bottle it, like you're on holiday, you're on the beach, you know, you just so much energy. Okay. We're like batteries. If you've heard about grounding, so like you take your shoes off, you get outside on the grass, on the sand, whatever, and it's like recharging your battery. So there's actually a science to it, because the Earth's got a subtle charge called the Schumann resonance, and actually what that does is it creates an ionic flow, so it gives us more of a positive negative charge. So we're charging our battery. When the sun's out, we're recharging from the top pole as well. So it's like the positive and negative being inputted into us. If we then do that in water, because water's a conductor, so when we're at the beach in the sea, that's why we always feel so amazing. That's why all these people, like I call it mañana time in Spain. When I go out to this ANF Academy out there, everyone's so chilled, everyone's so happy, because they have the sun all the time. They're walking around barefoot, they're in the sea, they've got all that energy. They don't really realise that over here in the UK, we can't bottle that in the summertime, or you know, keep that charge all the time, because we have the grey, the snow, the wind, the rain, all that kind of stuff. So that's when it comes down to, you were saying about the reframing, is just trying to get that into your head and working on the practices that we can work on. So for, you know, pain mitigation or reduction, or trying to get more energy into ourselves and actually try and be as well as we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't be nice just to be constantly on holiday.
Oh, could you imagine? Yeah, actually.
Yeah, manifesting that life right now. Yes. I often say, I was like, I'm in the wrong life. I should be on a yacht somewhere sipping cocktails.
But the thing is, that could be your next life. Because I'm one of these, I believe in reincarnation. This certainly isn't the first time I've been here, but I don't want to come back and repeat these mistakes in this body.
Yeah.
I want to be upgrading, up leveling each time.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the soul's journey, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
In this lifetime, we're learning our soul's lessons in this karmic cycle, and then we get reincarnated and we go into our next karmic cycle and choose our next set of lessons to learn.
Can't wait to be done and just sit on that beach.
Yeah. What happens though when your soul is done? It's learned all its lessons.
Oh, can you imagine?
Sure, because
tranquility, serenity, white sandy beaches, cocktails on tap.
Yes. In like pure enlightenment.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, thanks, Tracy, for coming on. But before we wrap up the podcast, I always ask my guests 3 questions. Because the podcast is called That Inner Voice. It's all about what we tell ourselves, you know, our inner voice, our inner guidance system. So what does your inner voice say to you?
That's a great question. There's always something inside me telling me to pause. Always, always, always. I've been on life's treadmill 100 miles an hour and it hasn't served me well. And I think there's something somewhere, someone, whatever it is, that knows when I'm heading down that path, I've not learnt my lesson. I need to just stop. And when I do that, it's whether it's a time for reflection or whether it's literally like physically stop and don't do that thing. There's something that tells me to pause. That's definitely an inner voice, or maybe an outer voice. I don't know.
A guidance.
Yeah,
I love that. And it's important, isn't it?
yeah.
And that really resonates with me as well, because I often go a million miles an hour. And I think, well, if I'm not going to do that, then I'm not going to get it done. And so what's going to happen? Nothing. Just stop and relax. Yeah. Life still goes on. And, you know, there is no rush, is there?
No, and that's the thing that's resonated with me the most. I can't even remember who I had the conversation with, but it's like life is not a rush. And when you sit there and you look around with you, people watching, whatever it is, everybody is in a rush. Where are they getting to?
Yeah. They're getting to the same place, but they're just stressed doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the second question is, what are you most excited about right now?
Oh, my book. Without a doubt, like literally, I turned 42 on Monday and had on the Monday, I got the email from my editor and it was like, right, okay, you just need to make these few changes. And I'm like, oh, it's actually going to happen. It's a working title at the moment, so it's not really fine-tuned. So that is something that I do need to work on quite quickly.
Yeah.
But it's all about wellness, and it's something that you can dip in and out of, so you don't have to read the whole thing, because I know everybody's busy, everybody's a million miles an hour. Not everybody's like me that wants to just sit by a beach and read a book. So sometimes you want to dip in and out and be able to action things quite quickly. So yeah, I'm hoping it'll be out within the next couple of months. So that's what I'm excited about.
That is really good. Oh, I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
And the third question is, what is the best bit of advice you've ever been given by somebody else?
That is simple. It's from my dad. I think in his day, he was actually a little bit of a rebel. But I remember him talking to me when I was about 9 or 10 years old and just saying, don't do things because other people are doing them. Do them because you want to do them. And I was like, didn't really get it at the time. I was like, but they're going off and doing this and they're going off and doing this. And it was like, but do you really want to do it? So unfortunately for them, my parents, that then became like a mantra for my life. And it was like, well, why should I do that?
Yeah.
Tell me the reasons. So why became my favorite question. But I think it stood me in good stead for life. And I've never really fitted into a pigeonhole or a box, which I used to hate. And I was bullied and all that sort of crap at school. Now I'm like, I don't want to fit into a box, and I'm not going to do the things that everybody's doing because they're doing them. And I'm going to ask why and find out the reasons and then make my informed choice on that. So yeah, that is literally the best advice I've been given.
A good bit of advice. Yeah, it is a good bit of advice. Oh, thank you so much, Tracy, for being a guest on the podcast. And let me know when your book's out, and I'll just give it a share.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And that was another episode of That Inner Voice podcast. Do not forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on another episode. That is all from me today. See you next time. That was another episode of That Inner Voice. Do join me next time on the next episode. Bye for now.